All right, so anyone with a Toro Timecutter with the white wheels potentially, in this particular case, these are the 18 by 7.5 by 18 wheels. If you're looking to upgrade to get a slightly bigger tire, or maybe you just want to go with black wheels to make it look a little nicer, or whatever the case might be, this will hopefully give you some help. In my particular case, I have the MX 4250 Timecutter, and so I was hoping to make it through the season. We're pretty much at the end. I probably have one more last mow that I got to get done. And my old tire actually ended up just blowing out on me, so it forced the issue. I was going to work on this in the off season a little bit, as the treads were basically gone on my old tires, and so I had a lot of slippage. But even prior to that, I was slipping a bit. So I wanted to get a little meatier tire, a little beefier, but I'd also want to switch to the black wheels, which I'm going to change the fronts here soon too. But for doing the rears, it's pretty easy to get you see golf cart wheels, and these wheels are the exact same bolt pattern. Everything is a 4 lug by 4 inch or 4 lug by 100 millimeter bolt pattern. So in order to get wheels, it's pretty simple. You can get them on Amazon or just pretty much anywhere on the internet for pretty easily with some decent tires. Now the catch here is with these models is because they had only the 7.5 inch tire to begin with. You're going to need spacers, and so I got these off of Amazon as well. This is an 8 millimeter. I maybe could have went with a 10 or a 12. I just didn't want to do much more than I needed to. As you'll see, we have plenty of clearance in here now. Before it was really tight, like maybe a credit card's width, give or take, compared to what the original is. You can see you've got like, I don't know, a couple inches of clearance there. And here, with the spacer, you've got about a 1/2 inch, give or take. So that should be plenty for anything that you're gonna do. I can put the links in the description so that it's clear of what I ordered. I think I got the wheels and tires. Those were, I want to say those were like $110 or something for the pair. It also makes it easier than trying to replace the tires on the existing rims too. So for the added cost, that alone made it worth it. But the catch is then you got to buy the spacers. I think the spacers, I got a pack of 4, these 8 millimeters for like $25. So it wasn't too bad. Like I said, ultimately I'm going to have to replace the fronts. I'm going to get the no flat, no tread, as that will help apparently with your ability to not have, to spin your tires, to kind of turf your wheels a little bit when you're making more aggressive turns and things like that, especially on wet grass. So my understanding is it just creates less resistance in the front, so that when you're backing up, it's not going to cause more stress on the traction between the tire and the turf. Now, that being said, something else I learned just watching a couple of videos and stuff, I'm pretty sure this isn't widely publicized, but as a result of it, I took a measurement here. That's why I had some tape here. I got this going around. So I measured dead center of the tire all the way around, total circumference here. This one is 143.5 centimeters, total circumference. The other one that I've still got to put on this yet is 145.5. So that's a 2 centimeter discrepancy between the two. And apparently where this matters is with zero turn mowers in particular, if you're trying to adjust the tracking on this so that it goes completely straight, if you're full forward, full back, whatever it might be, a big part of it starts with the tires. So for manufacturer, a lot of times these guys will get tires that are matched, because every tire, with it being rubber, it's going to have some inconsistencies when they pull them from factory, from one to the next. They're going to have some variations. So I guess a lot of times they'll mark them so that they're exactly the same. So in order to remediate that, what you need to do is overinflate the tire to like 50 or 60 pounds, leave it out in the sun for an hour or two, and it'll stretch the plies inside so that you can get this tire to be 145.5 as well, right? So you can't make the bigger one smaller, but you can make the smaller one bigger. So the idea is turn this one into 145.5 centimeter, or as close to as possible, by using some overinflation and letting it sit a little bit, and then adjust the inflation after. So that's something I'll probably just do in the spring. I don't think it's going to be a big deal to get one more mow out of it this way, but because at this point, it will be hard pressed to get any warm sun to do that. I think that's all I have. All right, I lied. One last thing. Because these wheels are slightly taller than the old ones, even though they're technically 18-inch, because the circumference is bigger on these overall compared to the old ones, because with the wider tire, and because tires aren't perfectly flat and they have that little camber to them, it naturally makes these a little bit taller. So when this is all done, I'm also going to have to like re-level the deck front to back for sure. But even after doing this side to side. But that being said, I probably don't want to do that until I replace my fronts as well, because that could ultimately change the overall level of the whole machine as well. So food for thought. After you replace wheels, tires, whatever it might be, you're going to maybe want to go through a quick leveling exercise. All right, so there's one other little epiphany that I had here in thinking about it. The wheel offset, like in the front, is fairly close to the same. And so right here, we'll call it, just a little under 4.5. I think the new wheel, it's slightly deeper, but from the back, it's drastically different. So what I wanted to do for my own sanity here is make sure that most the new tire is roughly covering the space that the old one does, like in reference to from here out, right? So hopefully this will make more sense, in the roughly 2 to 8 inch space away from the frame, there's tire there. So when I put the new one in, I want to make sure that we're kind of looking the same. So if I go over to the other side, I would expect that between 2 and 8 inches, I'll have tire there, and I do. So what that means is I'm probably making as little change to the overall stance of this as possible while getting the larger tire, because everything's still landing inside that zone. I'm going a little beyond the 8 and a little beyond the 2 inches. It's probably favoring a little bit more on the inside, which is probably fine. So just food for thought. But that's why a tire that's only technically about an inch wider is getting a much different stance inside here, because that offset on the inside, with it being so much deeper, that's where the spacers help to kind of push it back out. Now, if I did a full 1 inch spacer, it'd probably get us even closer to where we were on the inside, but it would push us out a lot further. And I think the further out we go, the more we're altering the handling, I believe. If anybody who is into high performance cars and things like that, you could probably myth bust my thought process there, but I believe that's the case. All right, one last piece to this. So since I've got an opportunity to take the other wheel off here, I'm going to show you putting this on. Make sure that before you put it all together, or before you put this on, that your surface here is a clean mating surface. Aside from that, you just got to make sure that you get the right patterns to line up. So you can see there, that fits. If I try to do any other configuration, it's not going to fit, right? So that's what's nice about having these somewhat universal ones that that give you different options in case if you have a slight tolerance difference, or if you make any changes to something at any point where if something's slightly out of spec, these just happen to be slightly more forgiving. So, but it's as simple as putting the spacer on there, and then slide the new wheel on over it, and away you go. I'll show you the finished product in a second. All right, so here's the finished product. Just want to show a couple of things here real quick. One thing I wanted to talk about was one of the other reasons why I went with the 8mm rather than doing a 10 or a 12, or a flat one for that matter, versus especially doing a spacer that is like a studded spacer. On the studded spacers, what it is you would have to have it thick enough so that these studs and these lug nuts were fully recessed, or at least flush with the surface, so that it doesn't interfere with the new studs coming out and the wheel seating flush on that surface, if that makes sense. if you do that, then you're going to have to go probably at least 1.25 inches, if not 1.5 inches, in order to make that work. And then we're going to have the tire push way out this way, which is one of the things I was trying to avoid. Again, I want to try to not alter the handling characteristics as much as possible. I just want a little better traction is all. So with the 8mm, you can see that like I have enough, right? There's enough bite on there to keep the wheels on there securely. I'm not worried about having to sink these all the way down. If we went a 10mm or a 12mm, especially, I would start to worry about how much thread on the studs we actually have. The alternative to that is you could always just replace the studs and get longer studs. You could probably just pound one out, bring it to an auto parts store and get a different size stud if you decided to go that route. But again, as you can see, we have plenty of clearance here. Now that being said, I don't know if you can see right here. It's not going to focus real well for me. This is a gas line. I'm going to secure that up and out of the way over there a little bit because that looks like it has the potential to rub on the tire. Like if I swing it over, I can hear that that's it tapping the tire. So I'm going to get a zip tie or something, secure that over. Shouldn't be a big deal. Simple fix, but that's ultimately the finished product here, right? I mean, all I got to do now, like I said, is replace the front wheels so that they match. And like I said, I want to go with the no flat, no tread so that I have less resistance. When the wheel gets into that position, it drags back a little easier. So that way there's less stress on the traction between the tire and the turf. That's all. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the comments. I'll do everything I can to answer them.